Today, we'll be dissecting, so to speak, the structure of the human psyche, aka the mind. But first, it should be clear to everyone that the term brain and mind are very dissimilar. Mind and brain are used interchangeably in our daily interactions. However, in terms of studies and research, it is of the utmost importance to differentiate the former from the latter. The brain is constructed of physical matter, i.e. blood vessels, nerves and layers intertwined, shielded by a skull. When we say brain, we speak of what is physiological, organic. On the other hand, the mind corresponds to what is psychic, i.e. psychology. Picture the mind as an intangible veil of electrical impulses generated by the brain. It is a separate entity even from the soul. As we go through the book, I'll be using the term psyche as reference to the mind, seeing that psyche and mind relatively mean the same thing. And now with this basic overview at hand, we could now proceed to the main premise of this video, the structure of the psyche. Oftentimes, people wish they could die instead of getting constantly tormented by that annoying chatterbox lurking inside their heads. But if we look closely, objectively, you'll realize that your psyche doesn't want to shut up, because that stream of nonsense serves a great purpose. A constant assessing, judging and classifying of people and things into certain categories. I think it does so to help you better grasp this chaotic world by converting what is unknown and uncertain into something further intelligible. Look around your room and distinguish one object that you do not yet know its name or nature. Undoubtedly none. Whether you like it or not, the psyche's fate is to function daily, consciously or subconsciously, to break down what's going on around you. The psyche's spontaneous reactivity to the external is not meant to make you miserable. It is merely a natural tendency to search and explore the unknown. The psyche does not interpret the world as it is, but always in relation to us. Everything you perceive from the outside world passes through your sensory devices. Processed by the brain, the mind then weaves it with your memories, thoughts, and feelings, hence project a quote-unquote subjective reality. Imagine you and I contemplating the ocean at the moment. The scenery might elicit joyfulness in you, whereas it might trigger sadness for me. You see, the reality, the image was the same, but our concept of it differed, seeing that the view evoked dissimilar memories for both of us. We experience not the external as a whole as much as a mere distorted subjective conception of it. In other words, the psyche is not a reflection of reality in actuality, but of man's position projected onto the world. Consciousness is more or less the same in every individual. Every person, however, streams the world from his personal angle. Even hearing this concept right now, you might have grasped it one way, whereas another person on the other side of the world who's watching this same video might have grasped it in a totally different way. Consciousness operates in an inward motion. It seems to pour the world into us through our sensory devices. Sense perception signals that something pertains in front of us, but its job is limited only to generating a field of awareness. It cannot describe the nature or name of the things perceived. The mechanism that tells us what things are elaborately is called apperception. Sense perception is classified more as physiological, connected to the brain and the body. Apperception, on the other hand, is sorted as a psychic process. And unlike sense perception, whose function is quite obvious, apperception has a more intricate structure, in that its workings involve a harmonious cooperation between other sub-processes. To name a few: recognition, evaluation, the intuitive processes, the instinctual processes, etc. Now we're gonna comment on each one of these apperceptive sub-processes individually. Imagine you're hiking a great mountain. On your way upward, there were numerous plants of various peculiarities. Suddenly, you hear strange noises. You look up and spot a bird hovering in the skies. Your sense perception has captured it. But how is it that you've recognized and named this particular object as a bird and not as a flying car, tree, or shampoo? This is where the process of recognition comes into play, and it functions as follows. Every time you direct attention towards an object, your mind quickly dives into your memory, searching for old memory images that may help you recognize the novel stimulus. You didn't recognize the bird as a tree because you already have past stored information justifying what a bird should look like. In contrast, a 3-year-old baby who hasn't seen a bird in his entire life will surely be able to see, to become aware of the flying bird as an object, but he won't be able to recognize it as a bird or animal because it's a new experience for him. He will probably assume that it's just another kind of humans flying up in the air, owing to the fact that his life up until this point revolved only around living indoors with people, unexposed to outdoor objects. Hence, recognition of new objects is a psychic process. It happens only when you do have at least a faint memory image identical to the new image perceived, or any other memory fragment containing some information that may help you identify the novel stimulus. Here's an easier example for this. Let's say you're a guitar player and a friend of yours is a pianist. Let's assume also that you have never seen a piano in your entire life. You have zero memory images of it, nor do you have the word piano in your vocabulary yet. One day, your friend invites you in to see it. He knows what a piano is, but you, the first thing that came to mind is a load of questions concerning this new object. As he played a few notes on it, you might have been able to guess correct that it's just another musical instrument like your guitar, since it produces similar melodies. However, the name of the object will remain a mystery until your friend names it for you. Now, after acquiring this experience, the next time you see a piano, you'll be able to name it as such and recognize its purpose. If we suppose that you haven't gone through that first experience, the object will remain unintelligible until someone explains it to you. The fact of the matter is, you cannot recognize the nature or name of new oncoming objects unless you do have already a pre-established memory image of them, or until someone explains to you what that thing is, aka through second-hand experience. Recognition can also be referenced as thinking, a mental process that helps distinguish the nature of novel stimulus based on what the person has seen before. Next time you're on to reading a book, I want you to notice how your mind understands new ideas. It processes a new insight, then scans memory images for relevant cues, facts, or past experiences that may help you grasp this new piece of information. In cases where you couldn't comprehend it, you're left intrigued, troubled, or frustrated as the insight remains an unfathomable mystery. This is why the more experiences and knowledge you gain, the further you can link things together and the better able you are at decoding the world. Having touched a rough surface of wood, for example, here the word rough conveys the feeling tone the stimulus carries that was then sensed by me, and thus prompt me to mentally judge and classify the material into a certain category, i.e. among things that are rough. Evaluation is the process of feeling. After recognizing the object, the psyche evaluates its feeling tone and then shocks the body to conceive emotions based on that assessment. I would guess that this process could be triggered after recognition or function simultaneously parallel to it. Recognition scans the nature and name of the item. Evaluation helps you feel the item. Some people might question, why do I need evaluation if I have recognized the thing already? I personally think evaluation is a mechanism by which the mind is able to further identify novel stimulus. We understand people and things better, especially when we feel emotionally connected to them. Intuition is usually conceived as something somewhat esoteric, but in our day-to-day interactions, all of us inadvertently verbalize at times what we feel intuitively. Allow me to clarify with a basic example. At the sight of an unidentified flying object, 3 people conveyed the following statements. The first one said, "Guys, I guess I saw a spaceship." The second said, "I have a feeling that there's a rocket coming towards us." And the last one, "Calm down, I think it's just a bird." These 3 statements convey an intuitive guessing of what the object might be. The first person said that he saw something. He referred to his intuition as sense perception, aka the act of seeing. The second, however, engulfed by strong emotion, illustrated his intuitive guess as a process of feeling, and the third as rational thinking. The problem here is not in whether or not they have made a guess, it's in the words they have used to verbalize their intuitive guessing. The intuitive process is not intertwined with sense perception and furthermore has nothing to do with thinking nor with feeling. Thinking is quite often slow, it takes time to ponder. Conversely, intuitive guesses, as I shall call them, are evoked instantaneously and spontaneously at the sight of a novel occurrence. Intuition is some sort of clairvoyant mental ability that helps you guess or count the possible outcomes of an event. The reason why we confuse intuition with thinking and feeling is owing to the insufficient development of our languages, as Carl Jung cited. It's swifter for us to say, I think that something is wrong, than to say, my intuition is telling me that something isn't right. In addition, I would personally intuitively guess, we confuse intuition with other mental functions merely out of laziness, or perhaps because the processes of intuitive guessing, thinking and feeling occur often simultaneously, leaving no time for us to differentiate between each of them. Volitional processes correspond to voluntary actions emerging from free will. Volition is contrasted with instinctual reflexes that happen involuntarily, which we're gonna see in a second. This mechanism encompasses not only the ability to think up intentions within the psychic realm, but also a second function that thrusts you to voluntarily act upon your willing, to crystallize it into the physical world. When you deliberately intend to do something and then willfully act upon that decision, that's a display of volition or free will. The opposite are actions originating from your instincts, like the fight or flight response for instance. Instead of you voluntarily choosing a course of action, the instinctual physiological response, aka fight or flight, decides on your behalf and forces your body to react in a defined direction. Imagine you're visiting a graveyard at night, and suddenly you spot a creepy ghost walking by. In such high-pressure situations, your survival instinct kicks in without delay and constrains you to act thoughtlessly, either by screaming for help, sprinting, or getting paralyzed altogether and fainting. Instincts are primitive behavioral reactions innate in each and every one of us. Some of them are inborn compulsive drives, like sexual drives for example. Arguably, although our instincts could be harnessed to some extent, for the most part, when activated, they send signals to the brain that we cannot easily ignore. And these electrical impulses are so strong that they oftentimes overwhelm the thinking mind. The author denoted that it's difficult to count a definite number of the instincts, and neither do we have a distinct definition of them at the moment, but the only thing that's ascertained is that the instincts fall among physiological functions, i.e. generated from the body and not the psyche, but nonetheless they are connected to it in some ways, as we will see in further videos. So keep in mind, volitional processes are psychological, instincts are more so physiological. There exist two types of perceptive processes, directed and undirected. Both are contents of consciousness. Directed conscious processes are named as such for they are rational and can be consciously diverted by attention, like thinking and volition. You could, most of the time, direct and freely choose your thoughts. On the other hand, undirected conscious processes are irrational and are unconfined by attention, like dreams and fantasies, for instance. Conscious choices are the products of rational reasoning. Dreams are the polar opposite in that they are often arbitrary, uncontrollable, disorganized visions. Some people may exclaim, wait a second, aren't dreams considered unconscious from the unconscious mind? To a fair extent, the answer is yes and no. And for the sake of conciseness, I cannot further elaborate on this point as it will prompt us a very long digression, but I will in the next video. For now, a superficial definition should be sufficient. The author considers dreams among conscious processes. Here's why. He depicted dreams indeed as manifestation of unconscious psychic activity, yet emerging on the surface of consciousness. And whatever passes into the realm of consciousness is hence considered one of its contents. So their origin is unconscious, but their display is conscious. As promised guys, in the next one we'll dive deeper into the nature and purpose behind dreams and especially the unconscious psyche. Thanks for watching and see you real soon.